Okay, good afternoon everyone. So today we'll start our first unit related to your operating system. Okay, so the first unit is actually related to the basic concepts related to operating system. Okay, so in this we are going to discuss about the different type of operating systems what we do have, and apart from that we will discuss about what do you mean by operating system from user's point of view and from systems point of view. Means user will have a separate perception regarding what exactly operating system is. Means as a human being, what we assume related to your operating system. And in the same way, in systems point of view, what we can say related to operating system, that we are going to see. So actually here, uh, yeah, this is my blog where you people can get all the details related to this particular subject, operating system. I will be uploading all the materials, next all the slides, and whatever we are sharing here right now, whatever the video we are going to record here, that will be present there. You people can visit the site and you can say, right now it is on the construction stage. Even if you open it up, it will say that it is under construction, but don't worry, within 2 or 3 days, I'm going to start it up. And then you people can go to that particular thing. Okay, so coming to basics, what we are going to learn in this is the content what we are going to discuss in today's session. That is what exactly operating system does. But before that, we'll discuss that what do you mean by operating system and what is the main purpose of operating system. That and what are the different things we have, different flavors we have in operating system that we are going to discuss. And after that, we'll discuss about what exactly the system does and how it is exactly organized and the different architectures what we have here, computer system architecture, OS architecture, followed with the operations. What are the different operations we can perform in our operating system, basically, and then followed with process management, uh, memory management, storage. Now, actually, these three, whatever you people are seeing here, these three are three different units. Okay, the process management is related to your first unit, and sorry, second unit. The memory management will be coming under third, and storage management is your fifth unit. Okay, so all these three units in depth we will be discussing in our coming session when we are discussing that particular unit. Right now, only the basic part we are going to discuss, followed with protection and security. Well, this we are not going to discuss much. Kernel data structure. Okay, and open source operating systems. So open source operating systems are nothing but something like your Android operating system comes under that. That we will just have a glance, and in the last unit we'll discuss more about open source operating systems. Yeah, like for example Linux, Ubuntu, Android. Mostly will be focusing on Linux and Android, since these two have been provided for you people in this particular unit. Okay, subject. Okay, fine. Next, we'll go to the next slide. So this is a blueprint of your first unit, part one, what we are going to discuss here. Okay, so okay, fine. This is the entire blueprint of your unit, but part one, what we are discussing today will be on your right hand side. Few things we'll be discussing. Like we have something called the types of operating systems. We have multiple types, but only three we have explained here. If we get time, we will be discussing about this further. And today, basically, the main focus will be on your OS concept. So this concept we are actually today mainly going to focus on. That is nothing but what operating system is going to do, how the architecture will look like, and how it is exactly organized. And then what are the operations we can perform on it, and how the information is stored in our operating system. So that is what we are actually mainly going to focus on. Then we have something called services. This will be in the next part, followed with this system calls and introduction to system calls. So coming to this unit, the main important thing what you people have to focus on is the system calls and this introduction to system calls followed with services. Now coming to this whole concept, we will be discussing about this in detail, but in exam, he is having a lot of scope to ask anything related to this particular question. So there is a lot of scope that he can ask any kind of question from this particular part. But whereas coming to system calls, whatever we are going to discuss, he will ask from that only. So it's very easy to remember or do it up. It's very easy. System calls are very easy. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay, next coming to the next. Okay, okay. So first we need to know about what do you mean by operating system. That we need to focus on. So general definition, I think everyone know. the basic definition what we usually give is it is nothing but a computer program. Operating system is nothing but a computer program, right? Which will actually interact with the hardware. Actually, what is the main purpose of operating system is nothing but to get interacted with the system, I mean the hardware, and perform the task whichever the user is providing it. So that is what comes under operating system. So the general definition what is given here is a program that acts as an intermediary between a user of a computer and computer hardware. So this is, so in normal sense what we can say it is the one which acts as an interface between the user and the hardware is what called as operating system. Why? Because why this interface is exactly required here is we know that as a human being we can understand a language which the hardware devices cannot understand. Hardware devices know only one language that consists of only zeros and ones. That is what we call it as binary, right? But as a human being, we know different languages. But definitely, in order to interact with the hardware or the system, computer system, we need a common language which can understand our language as well as the system's language. That's the reason this operating system actually comes into picture. Not only that, apart from this, these operating systems are of different types related to based upon the scenario. For example, if you if you people yeah, okay. Say for example, if you people are using laptops or your personal computer, the operating system, whatever you people are using in that particular system is entirely different from the operating system which you might be using in your supercomputer, right? Because supercomputer operating systems are meant to maximum utilization of resources. Means they have to perform around some trillions of transactions per second. But as a user, as a personal computer user, your desktop will be performing only certain number of tasks per second. There is a lot of difference, right? So definitely we can't use the operating system what we are using in our personal computer in your supercomputer. So that there is some kind of difference. Okay. So what we can say it is a program that manages computer hardware. So what are the goals we do have? So what is the main purpose of operating system is? It has to satisfy the user, whoever is using it. And why the user is using a computer system? Simple, it is to solve our particular problem. What are the problems? So make the task easier, they are using this particular system. Same way, make the convenience, make the computer system convenient. So these are some of the goals what we do have that we come across. Okay, so here the main thing important here is I told you about types, right? Okay, actually this is not the different type of operating system. These are the types of the computer systems we do have. Something called as mainframe. Mainframe in the sense what call it as. This is like a terminal. Okay, like for example, I'll explain this with the example. You people went to a net cafe and there you have rented one system for half an hour. Okay, so you people are sitting on a one computer. At the same time, some other user might have been visiting that particular net cafe and he might be requesting another system. So there is one more system. So like that, how many systems we have? That many, let us suppose that many users are there. Now these all users are actually connected to a central server. Okay, this is your server. Server in the sense, this is not the server which is located in some other location. This is the server which is located at this location itself. That is nothing but the net cafe wherever you people are in. So these are the users who are using. This is your terminal. These terminals are actually connected to the central server, and this server is actually connected to the main server which is located somewhere in different other locations. So that is, this is the main central server. You can call it up. So this is what we're talking about here. That is what we call it as mainframe. Now here the operating system, what is being used in this particular scenario in mainframe is maximum utilization of resources in the sense. For example, this particular main server, suppose this is there, it is having some 12 GB of space. Okay, it is having 12 GB of space. Now what happens here is it has to make sure that whatever the operating system is running here, it has to make sure that all these users are satisfied based upon the requirement. Like for example, the first user might want to watch any video in a YouTube. So he should be given sufficient amount of memory from this particular server. Now the second person has come up to prepare some kind of documentation. So he should be satisfied with the respective memory whatever is required. Same way third user and fourth user. So this is what actually done by this mainframe system. Okay, so that is what exactly done. So here the operating system main purpose is making sure whatever the resources are there, those are perfectly utilized. But if we talk about personal computer in the sense whatever the laptops we are using or the personal desktop computers you people are having in at home, these computers are not meant for maximum utilization of resources. These are actually meant for maximum response time. Means they have to satisfy the user requirement. Then, for example, you want to perform any task, that should be done very efficiently. But whereas coming to the resources, that may not be 100% utilized in this. I will explain you with an example here. Your system is consists of, for example, 1 TB of hard disk, let us suppose. Now, what you people are doing is, will you be using all the 1 TB of hard disk, whatever is provided to you? Definitely not. Until and unless you are filling that entire secondary storage device with movies, right? If you are doing only for your personal work or maybe related to business application, you will not be utilizing this 1 TB of your hard disk. Hardly you might be using some 500 GB. Remaining 500 GB is just left as it is. So it is not been utilized properly, right? So that is the case with it. But what happens here is the response means whatever the task you're doing, immediate response you will get, and immediately whatever you're doing that should be finished in time. That is the main purpose of your personal computer operating system. Apart from that, we have one more, something called as handheld computers. I think you people are very much familiar with this. Handheld devices are nothing but your mobile phone. So these are short, but even though they have limitations, but nowadays, if you have a mobile phone, that's more than enough to perform any kind of task, right? So we do exist an operating system in it. And everyone knows what operating system we are usually having here. That is nothing but your Android operating system. So with the help of a single device, you people are going to perform all kind of different tasks. But okay, even though it has certain limitations like the battery backup might not come properly because the size is small. So definitely the battery size will be small. It may not be provided more than 1 day. Okay, even though it has a limitation, but still we are able to perform all different type of tasks here itself in the handheld devices. So if you observe here, there are many different type of operating systems that exist. Like for example, handheld we have a different type of operating system. If we talk about personal computer, now can you imagine that handheld computer, your smartphone consists of an Android operating system. Can you use the same operating system to run your laptop? Can you install that Android operating system? It's highly impossible, right? Because the memory size is small, definitely the operating system size is also small. But whereas coming to personal computer, you might be using Windows 10. Can you use Windows 10 on your personal computer, I mean your smartphone? It's highly impossible, right? So that these are the differences. So there are many different type of operating system exist based upon the convenience and based upon the effectiveness of the requirement. These operating system perform their task. This is what exactly coming to your operating system. So the basic thing what you people have to keep in mind is nothing but it is the interface between the user and the computer. How it does. So that we will see in the next one. So what exactly it is? So here we are going to give you the point of view. So what exactly user thinks about operating system, and same way what the system thinks on itself regarding the operating system. So that we are going to discuss here. So if you observe here, so what is saying is, as per the user's point of view, this system, this operating system is of various ways he is going to view it. Already we have discussed it previously, same thing we are going to discuss here. Like for example, if you talk about a mainframe or a mini computer, you see here, we have a mainframe or a mini computer. If you talk about this mainframe and mini computer, so what is saying exactly here is that we have these operating systems in this are mainly meant for maximum utilization of resources. But when you talk about your personal computers or desktop computers, that is not the case. That is entirely different, right? Like for example, yeah, workstations. Workstations also comes under that. But the only difference between workstation and mainframe is workstations can be connected to different workstations. Okay, multiple workstations can be connected, and moreover, every workstation will have its own resources. Apart from that, it can access the resources from other workstations. But whereas coming to mainframe, that is not the case. mainframes will not have, or the mini computers will not have its own resources. It will actually depend on the server to get the resources. This is something like a concept related to your cloud computing. Software as a use, platform as a use, right? SaaS, software as a source, platform as a service, and we have something called infrastructure as a service. All those things comes under this mainframe. And whereas coming to workstations here, the workstations will have their own resources as well as the other resources from the different servers it can access it. Okay. Okay. And already I told you handheld devices now, there exists some kind of limitations. So resources are poor. Okay. We cannot perform all the applications what we are running in our laptops in your mobile devices. Why? Because the best example is your Excel sheet or your Word. Can you open your smartphone and you can start typing? Okay, you want to create a documentation. Are you comfortable in creating documentation in your mobile phone? It's highly impossible, right? You definitely need a personal computer or a laptop, and using that only you people can do it much more faster. And moreover, it has a battery. It has a very less battery. That is what is saying in this particular. Okay, so yeah, this is also one more important computer. What we have, we call it as embedded computers here. So what in the embedded computers is nothing but the best example for this is in your home. Many of you might be having refrigerators, automatic refrigerators. Many of you might be having washing machines, micro ovens. Now these systems, whatever you people are using, they have inbuilt embedded computer operating systems. Yeah, and these operating systems are meant to perform only specific tasks. Like for example, if you take a micro oven, it will have an operating system which is used for making whatever the properties are required for a micro oven, only that will be executed by that particular thing. For example, if you take an AC, now automatically you can switch on sleep mode, automatic mode, means based upon the room temperature, whatever you're setting it up, if the room temperature has been reached, it automatically shuts it off. If the room temperature is not met, it will automatically restart the process and it will start cooling the entire room. So those kind of devices comes under embedded computers. Okay, so we do have personal computers, mainframe computers, workstations. We have handheld devices, something like our smartphone devices, and then we finally have embedded computers. So these are the different platforms where we people are going to use a different type of operating system. Remember one thing, whatever the operating system we people are using in our embedded computers, that will not be used in your personal computer. Okay. Same way, your whatever the system you people might be using in your personal computer operating system, that will not be used in embedded computers. That's a simple logic. See, if you are using Windows 10 in your personal computer, can you use Windows 10 in your micro oven operating system? It's highly impossible, right? Because the memory size is very less. It's hardly KB. But whereas coming to Windows 10, it's in GB. There's a lot of difference, right? So that is what it's saying here. Now let's come mainframes are designed primarily for optimizing. Yeah, that I told you, no, the mainframes, the main purpose is maximum utilization of the hardware resources. That is what it's saying. Now come to the operating systems point of view, what he is thinking about operating system. So first thing what he's saying here, he is thinking that operating system is a resource allocator because it is the operating system which decides how much resource needs to be given to one user. I'll explain it with example. Let us say you people wanted to create a documentation. I gave you a task. Okay, I fine. I gave you assignment and asked you people to write it in a Word document and just submit it. So what you people are doing? You people simply go to Microsoft Office and within that you will try to open that MS Word. And once you are opening it, you will perform something. Now, when you people are opening it, that MS Word, so what happens? These instructions, whatever, actually what we are doing is, we are double clicking it. We are using GUI, graphical user interface, and using that interface, we are just performing our task. But actually what happens is, whenever you are double click, when you are clicking on your Microsoft Word, internally the command is being transmitted to the operating system. Okay, and that operating system is converting that command into zeros and ones and then transmitting to the hardware, stating that okay, the user wants to use MS Word, you please provide some space. So it will provide you the space, maybe 1 KB or 2 KB or 3 KB. So this is a way. So whatever the command, whenever you're double clicking using a mouse, for example, I'm moving a mouse right now, you see. So internally a command is going. That command is what we actually call it as system call. So whenever as a programmer, I want to interact with the operating system, I can do it only with the help of one means, that is what we call it as system call. Okay, so that is what we say here. It is a resource allocator. So operating system has to make sure that he is managing all the resources that are present in the hardware device, and it is allocating them perfectly. Means no one should be blamed. Means if you people like simultaneously you are watching a movie, at the same time you are writing some documentation. So what I mean, watching a movie is definitely it requires a larger space compared to the space required for what we call MS Word. So in that case, how the system is managing, how the system is giving space for this particular VLC media player, how the system is giving space for this MS Word. So that is getting managed, balanced. Okay. So how it is doing it? Who is doing it? Nothing but the operating system is doing it. That's why he is called as a resource allocator as per. Okay. Yeah. So as per this, what we call it as systems point of view. Same way he is calling it as a control program. Why he is calling it as a control program? Because it makes sure that if any kind of interrupts or errors are coming up, he is the one who is going to handle it properly. That's why he is calling it as a control program. For example, sometimes you may try to access some memory which is not existing. So in that case, what happens? It will automatically say that okay, this command is not possible right now. The process is busy. Something like that, it will display in a small window. So that is what comes under this. So who is exactly prompting that particular message is nothing but the operating system. That is what it's saying. Okay. So finally, what is saying is there is no universally accepted definition as per the requirement, as per the understanding of individual user, individual system. Different definitions are given for each and every system. So that is what he's saying. And here the one more point, the most important point, what is people have to keep in mind is kernel. Yes, this is very much important. Kernel is very much important here. So what we can say about kernel is that this is the heart of your computer. That is what directly we can say for your computer. Like for us, what heart actually pumps the blood. Same way, kernel is the one which actually makes sure that no any kind of errors takes place in your system when your people are performing any operation. Okay, there are two different type of operations that are going to take place. That is in the foreground and background. Right now, whatever I am showing to you people, what you people are seeing it is the what we call foreground. Means you people are able to see. But if you go to Task Manager, you will see that there are some background processes are also running parallelly. Okay, they are given low priority. That is in the second unit when we come across. So, but right now you just keep in mind that kernel. Kernel is the heart of your computer, which will make sure that all the systems work properly, and it is the one which actually allows that system calls to match with the hardware as well as your operating system. This is what we call it. Okay. So this is what we also call it as a system program or an application program. So I hope till here it is clear. So we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, computer system structure. So basically our computer structure. So we are not, remember, we are not discussing about operating system right now. Before entering into operating system, we are just having a brief overlook about our computer system structure. Nothing but your personal computer it might be, or it might be a laptop, or it might be a handheld device. So basically any system consists of four components, and those are nothing but your first one is the hardware. So hardware is basically everyone knows without hardware we cannot have a computer system. So yeah, hardware is the basic computing resource it provides. So nothing but the CPU, the memory devices, the IBIO devices, all these comes under hardware. Whichever you people can feel it, you can touch it. Okay, that all devices, electronic devices comes into your hardware. Then it is followed with operating system. And I think you people know now, you have an idea that what do you mean by operating system? It's nothing but interface between the user program as well as the hardware. Otherwise, what you can say, it is simply a program. Operating system is a program which actually manages the computer hardware or which actually interacts with the computer hardware. So what is the main purpose of operating system is nothing but it has to control the hardware. Means whatever the resources we have, like he is saying controls and coordinate use of hardware. What is the hardware we have here? IBIO devices, memory. So all this, for example, through your laptop, you people are connecting what we call pen drive, right? So pen drive is a hardware device. So whenever you people connect for the first time a new device, what happens initially? You will see that some kind of installation takes place. That is who is exactly doing that? That is operating system. Operating system is getting interacted with your pen drive. How it is getting interacted means your pen drive will actually consist of small programs. I don't know how many of you observed it. Whenever you buy a new pen drive, for example, you are buying a pen drive of 4 GB size. But when you start using it, it will say you can use only 3.7 GB. Then what about the remaining 0.3 GB? That actually comes into ROM, read-only memory. So it will actually consist of some program. That program is meant to interact with the operating system. So whenever you install that pen drive to a new laptop or any laptop or a new device, it will first get interacted to it. So who is exactly going to interact with this? Nothing but operating system. It interacts with it, controls it. Next time it will start controlling it. That is what actually done with this particular thing. And next comes application program. Now coming to your application programs, nothing but whatever the user related programs we are using it for our convenience and all, those all comes under application programs like your word processor, your compilers, like if people are writing a C program. So you are using an editor, that is one type of application program. Now after writing the program, you people are compiling it. So we need compilers. That is a separate kind of application program. Now after compilation, that will be converted into zeros and ones. Now that will be given by the operating system to the hardware. Then it will perform the operation and it will give you the result. Next, web browsers, I think you people know about it, database systems, video games, etc. All these comes under your application program. Whichever we are using, whichever program we are using for our convenience, we can use it, applicate, those all comes under application program. And not last but just least, is nothing but the users, that is we people. We people are the one who are going to use this machine, other computers with the help of operating system. So all these four components actually together collaborate or integrate together to form a system called as computer system. Now the very basic diagram for this is this. You can see this is the diagram which you people have to keep in your mind. First comes something called as computer hardware. Computer hardware means, like, I think you people now have idea what they mean the computer hardware. Your central processing unit, your hardware devices, your memory unit. Okay, all those things comes under your computer hardware. And on top of your computer hardware exists operating system. Okay, so operating system will be present on top of your computer hardware. What it will do, whatever the applications, whatever the instructions are received from the upper layer, that will be converted into zeros and ones and it will be delivered to the computer hardware. Okay, this is what the actual task does. Okay, and coming on top of the operating system, what is the layer we do have here is nothing but we call it a system and application program. So here, application programs means you are familiar now. All the programs what we are using for our sake, user's point of view, your MS Word, web browsers and all, those all comes under application program. But whereas coming to system program, these are different. How these are different is, I think you people know about .exe file. I think most of you people might know about .exe files, right? So those kind of
Yes, sir,
files
we
actually
know
come.
setup.
Yeah. So those kind of files actually comes under system programs. When those are meant only for system integration. So after that installation part, then our application start working with that particular system program. So those things comes under system and application programs. And who are going to access these system and application programs is nothing but we as a user will be going to access that information. So you can see this is compiler, this is one program. Assembler, this is the application program. Text editor is the application program. Database system, this is an application program. But initially these all are system programs. System means, so whenever you want to install compiler, you'll get compiler.exe file. When you're double clicking, you're installing it, then you can use this in a format of application. So if you can talk about MS Word, you'll get extension .doc. So that is kind of system program. Okay, but as an application, we are using it for our convenience, for creating documents, for writing some other things, That all things comes under this particular. So these are the four components which you people have to keep in mind, and this is the common diagram we have. So the very first thing what we have here is the computer hardware, followed with the operating system. Then we have a system and application program, and finally the upper layer consists of users. Okay, these users are the one who are going to act. It's very simple. Fine. Now let's see how this system, computer system organized. For example, we people are saying, okay, these all are connected, connected, connected. Fine. But how the signals are being transmitted? For example, I am moving a mouse here, right? So I am clicking on this particular arrow. So how the system is going to get that information? I am sending that. I am telling that with the help of a system call, that information is getting transmitted, right? But how I will come to know that with that information internally how it is going? So different because internally every device is connected using wire. And we all know that with the help with those wires, what can be transmitted? That is nothing but electricity, right? So how the information is exactly getting transmitted now? So here, for that, first I'll show you the diagram and then here. Now please look carefully in this diagram. Now this is your exact system. If your personal computer, if you ask me, this is the exact diagram now, where you people are having a CPU, yeah, this controller means your secondary storage device, whatever you people are having. Then you have USB controller. USB controller might be your pen drive, your mouse, your keyboard, your printer, followed with monitor. And all these things have been connected to a memory. Now all these devices, whatever you people are seeing, are connected with the common line. You can see this. This is the common line we are having here. This common line is what we generally call it as bus. You might have heard it in your first year related to your IT workshop or somewhere. Bus, okay. This is nothing but a wire, a single wire, which is actually connecting all these devices together. So whenever you people are giving any control, if you're typing anything on a keyboard, suppose one letter you're typing it, so that control is transmitted using this particular bus. So this is the one which has to manipulate or make sure how the information is transmitting perfectly to the CPU. But exactly how the information is going, because we know through wires we can transmit only electricity, or we can call it as current. Okay, so how it is represented? So basically we know that system can understand only 0 and 1, right? So when we talk about 0 here, what happens? How this electrically it is transmitted is, whenever you want to transmit 0, means the operating system want to transmit 0. So what it will do, it will not transmit any information. It will not transmit any electric current. The current will not be transmitted. Okay. And whenever you want to transmit 1, then it will transmit a current. I'll explain you with a small EC related diagram. Actually, we do have time lapse. Time lapse in the sense, we have short periods, like every 5 seconds, we have 5 seconds. Now within that 5 seconds, if you are not sending any current, so like this, that means you are representing 0. Now after this time lapse, if you are sending any current, so your graph will be like this. So that means this is represented 1. Okay. So again you want to send 0, so this will be something like dash. So this is represent 0. Again you people are sending current, so this will be something like this. So this represents 1. Means high and low like this. It will be something like this. Internal, I'm talking about your electric wires, how that system comes to know 0 and 1. So this represents 0, this represents 1. This represents 0, this is representing 1. This is 0, 1. In this way, it actually performs the task. Okay? This is the way it's exactly going to transmit your electric current. So whenever, for example, if people want to type capital A, so its ASCII value something, for example, 65. So you'll get a binary code something 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, something. Now how the system, operating system is going to transmit with the help of this common bus means, first initially, I told you I will have a time lapse, right, like this. So initially 0 now, no current will pass. Again time lapse done, in again 0, no current. Now you have time lapse is done, now you are transmitting 1. So it will be like you are transmitting electricity. Again 1. So you are transmitting electricity. It's like, sorry, not like that. Here it will be reduced, it will be something like this. You're transmitting electricity, na? Again it will be like this, then this, okay. So we are sending 0, so it will be like this. Means what it means is that when two zeros are coming, it will be like this. When two ones are coming, it will be something like this. But there will be a gap here, time lapse. Okay, that is what in this way it actually tries to transmit the information. That is the whole architecture related to your computer system thing. Okay, it's clear, I think. Next we'll go to the next part. Yeah, computer startup. So what exactly how the computer system is going to start? So basically, the first thing what you people should come into your mind is many of you might be having laptops or your personal computers. So what you people are doing is initially switching on your CPU, right? So whenever you people are switching on CPU, so who is exactly trying to make how your operating system is getting loaded? So definitely this is we are saying that operating system is a program and that program has to be like for example we are writing a C program. So what you people are doing in order to execute it? You are compiling it and then you are executing it. In the same manner, operating system is also a program. Then how it is going to execute it? So for that we have a program, special program called as Bootstrap program. Okay, Bootstrap program is the one which is actually loaded in our system. Okay, this is a very small program. It's hardly in KB. Okay. This program, what happens whenever you are switching on the power button of your laptop or your personal computer, this program gets initiated. Now, this Bootstrap program, what it will do is it will install. Means, for example, I'll explain that also. Now, you people might have seen in your RAM also. For example, your system consists of 4 GB of RAM. But actually, you can use only 3.07 as I told you before. You can use only that one. So what about the 0.3 GB? That comes under ROM, read-only memory. So that read-only memory will consist of this particular Bootstrap program. And we cannot change it. Remember, this program cannot be changed by anyone. That's why it is called as read-only memory. Why? Because if you have been given a permission to modify it, and if you're modifying it without means without knowing anything, then definitely it is going to corrupt your entire system. Because if this file is getting corrupted, your operating system will not get loaded. That much critical it is. That's why it is always stored in your ROM, read only memory. Or we can also call it as EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, and it is also called as firmware. ROM is not called as firmware, EEPROM, WEPROM, that is what is called as a firmware. Okay, now this is a small program. Whenever you are switching on the button, it will initiate and it will load the operating system in your RAM, and then it will start executing. Your operating system will start functioning. Okay, this is the way it exactly does. That is what it's saying here. Nothing else to talk about here. And you can see the third point: load operating system kernel into memory. So operating system kernel is, as I told you, kernel is the heart of your operating system. This will be loaded into the memory, and then your operating system will start executing it. Okay, that is what it's saying in this particular scenario. So that is what all about your bootstrap, how it exactly starts. And next, what happens once the kernel is loaded into your system, your RAM, automatically it will start executing the different type of operating system related information, and then it will make it ready so that you people can start using it and perform different operations on that. Okay, so what are the services that the kernel is going to provide you outside? Okay, so that is what we call system processes. Actually, kernel process is there, system processes also there. System process is something like that are provided by us. Means we can create our own processes and we can execute it apart from kernel. Kernel will have its separate processes and that cannot be executed. Remember, kernel related processes cannot be executed by us and they cannot be written. Okay, they will be actually inbuilt provided with the operating system. But system processes can be executed. We can create new applications. This is something like in your Android mobile phone, you can create your own Android application. You can install in your Play Store, and you can download it and start using it. That kind of processes is what we call it as system process. Okay. Now we have one more term here. So actually we are discussing about different terms here. The term is what we call it as interrupt. So I think you people might know about interrupt. What do you mean by interrupt? So right now, whatever I'm doing is interrupt. Right now, actually, I'm showing you people a different slide. But right now, at the same time, I am trying to move my mouse and just highlighting this test. So what I'm doing, I'm giving some signal to the operating system that please make a tick mark on in front of this particular word. Please underline this word. So this is what we generally call it as interrupt. Well, we can also call this as event. Okay, you can call it as an event or you can call it as a interrupt. So basically these are of two types. So first one is what we call it as a hardware interrupt here. This hardware interrupt, what exactly it does is, this is purely related to your hardware devices. Means internally your motherboard will consist of some interrupts, okay, that we cannot see internally. And these will be mostly triggered by the hardware. We cannot trigger it. Hardware will trigger it up, and that signal will be transmitted to the CPU. Based upon that, the performance or the whatever the operation need to be done, that will be performed. Same way we have software interrupts. Yeah, this is for us. As a user, we people might be using many different type of programs and all. We might be performing some different applications or writing some applications or developing some applications and executing it, right? So here we will come about different type of software. So these are mostly for us. We can also call it as system calls or monitor calls. Okay. So that is what I'm talking about here, system calls. So the best example is without knowing or unknowingly, you people have already used this particular software. Okay, software interrupts. Can anyone give me example for this? Software interrupt where you might have used. I'll give a hint also. You have used this in your Java programming. Yeah, can you?
Inheritance?
No, not inheritance. Anyone else? No. Okay, fine. I'll explain.
In threads.
Soft thread. No, 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 not thread. Anyway, you get closer to it. I'll explain it. You people might have used try and catch for handling the exceptions such as division by zero, right? So those kind of exceptions are what you people are writing in your, for example, in a Java program, you might be using try, catch, and throw. So when in try, what you're doing, you're trying to perform some action, and if in case that action goes wrong, what need to be done? The catch has to catch that particular error. Whatever the problem is going to be created in try, that has to be caught by catch. That is what we call it as software interrupt. For example, you have written a program for division and you are trying to divide a number by 0. That is the interrupt because we cannot divide any number with 0. That's highly impossible. So what happens? Immediately one error will arise. That error is what we call it as interrupt. So that is what we call software interrupt. Using try and catch, you're trying to catch an exception is nothing but a software interrupt. Okay. Apart from that, you people are trying to install something and suddenly you come to know, like for example, you're trying to install one movie which is a 1 GB of space. But unfortunately in your drive, you have hardly 500 MB of space. Now what happens? There is a shortage of 500 MB, let us suppose. Now what happens here, when it starts installing it, you'll immediately get a pop-up saying that memory is not sufficient to store this particular application or store this particular file, whatever you people are doing it. So who is generating that? So this is not actually generated by the system, it is actually generated with the hardware. Okay, hardware is showing and that information is brought by the operating system and that is converted into our user understandable language and then a pop-up is been displayed in front of the screen saying that we cannot store that particular file. Okay, so that is what we call it as hardware interrupt. But remember, this cannot be generated by users. Only software interrupts we can generate and that too with the help of something called as system call. Using system calls only we can do it. We can sometimes also call it as monitor call. Okay, fine. We'll go to the next one. Now, what are the different operations we can perform? Well, we have different operations. Basically, we can perform on a system. Like you can install you can install the IBM devices and perform different operations using CPU. And at the same time, We can perform other different applications, multiple things. Like you people might be running a movie, and at the same time, you people might be doing some kind of task, maybe painting, maybe you're creating some documentation. So there are different type of operations what we can perform here. So in order to make the performance easier, smoother, we have something called as buffers here. Buffer is nothing but it's like a cache. What you can talk about, you can say that it's a cache with what we are using it. And what is the main purpose of cache is storing the most recent information, so that whenever you people are opening that particular application again, it can show you very fastly. So very fast, in a faster manner, it can be represented on your screen. So that we are going to use it. Okay. So that is what he's saying in this particular operations concept. And again, he's talking about the interest, how we can handle it. So how we can perform in this, that is what he has given. So already I discussed it. So that is what the same thing is saying. Now these points are important here. Whatever the highlighted one I am showing you, these are important. A trap. Actually, whenever an interrupt is generated by a software, we call it as a trap or exception. As I told you, I gave the example, try and catch, used for catching exception. So here that word is trap and exception is being used. So these are purely software generated interrupts. Okay. And moreover, operating system is interrupt driven. Interrupt driven means anytime you can interrupt it. That's why it is interrupt driven. We call it as interrupt driven, because right now I am doing the same thing. I am representing you one slide. In that I am doing some kind of other thing. See, I am interrupting. I am doing a different kind of lines I'm drawing here. I am just trying to highlight this particular text. So for example, if I take this and I'm trying to highlight this thing, so all these things is what now I'm erasing everything. So this is the interrupt. I'm interrupting the slideshow. So that is what comes in the interrupt. So operating system is the interrupt driven. So these are important for your bit. Online bits they might be asking you. Fine. So next is interrupt handling. So how we can handle interrupts. So basically we require some technology. So there are two steps which you people have to concentrate on, something called as polling and vector interrupt system. So we will discuss about this in the coming session. Right now you just have an idea that interrupts can be handled using either polling or vector interrupt. Well, apart from that, we have he has given a small example of how the interrupt actually takes place. Okay, you people can go through it. I'll explain in a simpler manner. First, we have a CPU here. We have IBIO devices. CPU means user. So here, this is a timeline for user execution. User process is getting executed. Process means don't get confused here. Process in the sense whatever the task you people are doing in your system right now, that is one process. For example, you are watching my video. I am presenting you one slide and I am explaining here. You people are listening to it. So it is consuming some space in your system, right? So that is what we call it as a process. Okay. For example, you're opening a MS Word and you're creating file. That is one process. You're opening a web browser. Okay. You're browsing something. So the entire web browser, whatever you're opening is a process. Within that, if people are creating multiple tabs. So each multiple tab is a separate process. That is what we call child process. Your entire web browser is what we call it as a parent process. So once the people are closing the web browser, all the tabs get closed. It means you are directly closing the parent. You are directly killing the parent. Automatically, all the child processes are getting killed. So you don't want to kill the parent process. You want to kill some child processes. How you can do that? Simply closing that respective tabs, which you don't require. Remaining tabs will be working as it is. Okay, so that is what we call it as a process. Now here if you look at it, the user process is getting executed here, and the same time after some time, this is the time lapse. So IBA request means after some time IBA request came into picture. So what happened here? Another one. So here what happened? Till here, user process is getting executed till here. Suddenly one interrupt came, IBA interrupt. So what happened? Immediately whatever the task is get performed by the system, it is stopped here. Whatever the interrupt has come up, for that he has given some time. Once the interrupted operation is performed, again it started doing the same operation what it was doing earlier. That is nothing but the user process is getting executed. Same. Again some interrupt came, it came down. So if you observe here, this is something like, this is 0 and this is 1, something like that. So all 1. Suddenly interrupt came, it came back to 0. After this task is completed, again 1. Since it is performing user process, electricity is getting fast. Suddenly one interrupt came, it stopped the process here and again it started performing operation for interrupt this. So that's why it is considered 0. Then again 1. In that stage, the information is getting transmitted. Same with for IBIO devices. So IBIO devices, whatever are there, so that is getting executed here and this stage. Okay. So this is the way how it is exactly going to be get transmitted. Okay. So I hope everything is clear till now. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the, after. Okay. So before 5 minutes, I'll stop it up and then we can. So any of 5 minutes, we'll stop it up. Okay. Yeah, storage structure. So coming to storage structure, well, we'll discuss this. Fine. We'll discuss tomorrow related to this. Okay. So tomorrow we will discuss about storage. We'll stop here.